Quick disclaimer on this video, it is very shaky because it was suction cupped to the front of a combine windshield. So if it's going up and down and making you a little sick, that is why. So if that is something that bothers you or you get motion sickness, you might just want to listen to this video or listen to the podcast portion. That's all. Thank you. We are rolling in the combine this week, so this is a fun one. Almost as cool as live streaming. We're going to do that at some point. Maybe not this harvest, but at some point we'll stick a camera in here and you'll get to hang out with Neil for a couple hours. So, yeah, we're picking corn. It is September 13th, right?
That's right.
September 13th. So, what do you know about the markets right now?
Beautiful weather. The markets this week have been, well, they were waiting on a big report to come out, and it kind of came out, and I think it is bearish for the corn. It just looks like to me the USDA's kind of got their export numbers inflated a little bit, probably more than, they're reporting more exports than what are actually happening, so the market already knows that, along with harvest starting and yield reports coming in kind of better than expected. That's kind of what we're seeing in Kentucky. I talked to my neighbors and my grain marketer here in Kentucky, and everybody's seeing, higher than expected yields. I think the market kind of already sensed that, and I think as a result of that, we've seen some erosion this week, and it looks like to me probably going forward, like if we can't put in some, into some, like some positive territory this week, we may see a further erosion down the slippery slope into $4. So, like to see China making some, buys, which doesn't look too likely. It kind of looks like we may be at war with them or in the beginnings of a war. So, I don't know. Just not a lot of positive news for the grain markets this week. Soybeans kind of the same, excellent yields, reports happening from the people that are already in the field, and some rains here and there, kind of band-aiding the market together, or band-aiding the crop together, rather. So, I don't know.
So how does our what's the right word for it? How do our geopolitical relationships affect the grain market? We've got stuff going on with Russia, we've got stuff going on with China, there's been a bunch of different laws being passed in Mexico recently.
Sure.
I don't know if there's anything going on with the Koreas, but there's all these countries that we export a lot of grain to on a regular basis, and it seems recently, given the world, a lot of those relationships have been tense in different ways.
Sure.
How does that affect prices?
Mexico and China are both major players in the U.S. market. So Mexico is, I think, actually our leading importer of U.S. corn, and they banned GMOs coming in there. And right now there hasn't been a resolution to that. So Mexico, not a current buyer of U.S. corn, which, of course, that you take a major importer away, that's always going to affect us negatively. And then China is always a South American user, but when South America gets short, they come to America to buy their crop, and when we can't get along, on the political front, it just causes, China to look away from us into another spot to buy their grain. Not to say that they won't if they get in a bind, because at the end of the day, their people have to eat. But, as long as we're in strained political relations with them, they're just not going to buy grain from an enemy, So it'd be nice to see some positive relations happening between the two. They need us. We actually still need them. We're not industrialized enough at this point to just be totally separate of China without some major pain here at the just in the homeland. So Russia's the same. they're exporters of wheat, but they're importers of other grain. They don't ever buy a lot of U.S. grain, but if they're at war and they got to concentrate their resources on buying military equipment, that keeps them from buying food. So just a lot of negative things happening in the world that causes our grain markets to be tight in a time when inputs are just extremely expensive on all fronts. Inflation's is going to make it very difficult for the U.S. farmer to be very profitable right now. That's a full grain cart right there.
Uh-huh. You can see the tires squatting a little. So what does resolution look like in any of that? Is it just relieving tensions? Like, does the government, do we have political representatives who are out there negotiating with these countries, trying to establish deals and everything? Like, what does that look like?
We do.
From a government perspective.
We have the U.S. Trade Commission that I think has either filed or is going to file a formal grievance with Mexico through NAFTA, which it could bring us to a resolution with them, over the period of a year. That kind of stuff just takes time. With China, you hope, like a change in U.S. leadership could maybe alleviate some of the tensions we're having with them. I think a lot of it's just with the current administration that we have in there is causing some of these problems we're seeing. And they're just not very friendly with our the people that we've had relations with here in the last 10 or 20 years. So will we change administrations? I don't know, but I think those countries would appreciate a change, and I think most of our countrymen would too.
So what is why does this matter? Why does this matter to us as consumers eating this food? Well, as long as we have food, that's what matters, right? Why should we care what other countries are doing?
Well, we should definitely care, because at the end of the day, like if problems in the supply chain are trickle down. So if you have countries that are either not refusing to buy U.S. grain or not buying U.S. grain because of relations, what happens is, at first, it's probably good to the consumer because U.S. prices will erode. But over time, what happens is farmers lose the ability to produce grain because they get so short cash, they either can't buy fertilizer or they completely drop out of business. And then that just creates a vacuum. So not that it won't ever be filled, because over time there will be other producers that step up, or other factors in the market. When supply decreases, all of a sudden prices jump back up, and over time, the market corrects itself. But it'll have a short-term consequence of, as supply is reduced, prices will begin to creep back up, and then which negatively affects the consumer. So you just like to have balance, and it's good for the farmer. We've talked about this before. Balance is good for the farmer, good for the consumer. You just want a steady, low risk, and I think environment, and that's what is good to sustain a just level market where a consumer, isn't experiencing those big spikes and valleys. They're just able to, they know what to expect, I guess is what you should say. The market's very similar. If we're having good relations politically, and the farmer is buying his inputs at a reasonable level, he knows where to market his crop at, and just for the supply chain, I think it just makes it a lot smoother versus when we're having political tensions and you see big flashy news stories and it makes the either grain market spike or plummet, and inputs do the same, they spike or plummet, and it puts everybody in a more risky situation versus if there's peace at home, peace abroad, everybody's, you know, being able to get the supply they need at a reasonable price. It works a lot better for everybody.
Okay, sweet. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. We are going to have the podcast up and going here pretty soon, like an official long podcast, not just these 10-minute videos. And we can dive more into all these topics we've been talking about, the things that are, you know, relevant to the end consumer, and also what it's, you know, what these grain markets are meaning for farmers. Hey, what's the thing that happened in the news this week that's going to affect us in 6 months? So there's more of this coming. In the meantime, please feel free to share this with your friends, like, subscribe. I think we're going to do these on Thursdays. Last time I said, I think Wednesdays. So I think Thursdays, we're going to aim for Thursdays, putting these up. And so we'll have these here on YouTube, but we're also going to start uploading these to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and everything, so you can at least just listen to the audio. So thanks for dealing with the noisy combine. I think for a brand new John Deere, it'd be a little quieter here.
Really good corn.
Yeah, I can hear it just pitter-pattering. But yeah, thanks guys.
Thanks.